So I'd like to take you through the, one day in the life of a Grandmaster or something like that, what my journey was like. In fact, the Guyana generation was happy to collect some of the questions that perhaps you posed, and so I'll go through those. Okay, the first one starts off my philosophy on chess. Now, I honestly can't give a very clear answer to that one. I mean, the chess means different things in different moments. You experience it continuously. So let's say when I started, at the age of 6, for me it was just something fascinating. But, and probably many of you can relate to this, the only thing I was concerned with was if I could give mate somehow, preferably quickly. And of course, since I'm playing with people better than me, my brothers and sisters, or tend to be maybe you suspect that they're tolerating you a little bit. You collect a few points and you feel happy, and that's as far as it goes. But then you start to compete in tournaments, so there you realize, first of all, these people are not so friendly, and second, they're playing a lot better than me. So that's one stage. It's much harder than the first one because you're losing a lot of games. But what do they teach you about chess? They say always shake your opponent's hand after you finish the game. Always analyze with your opponent. That was pre-computer days, but anyway, always analyze with your opponent. Find out what your opponent thought. This is quite useful. You find out for the first time that everything you saw was not everything that people saw. Your opponent may have continuously noticed. He may have gone one move further in the line, or he may have seen a line that you didn't even realize existed. So for the first time, the board starts to open up. By this point, you probably picked up a couple of chess books, very basic books. They explain the miniatures nicely. So I started out with games by Paul Morphy, Blanca, Yakin, Keres. And you see the ones that attract you the most are the quick ones, and you see that material and the initiative and activity are quite different. You can sacrifice a lot of material, but you don't absorb these lessons in a very direct way. But somehow your head puts them together. You find that at the board, the hand more or less makes the moves by itself. You start playing, and when you get a chance, you apply the combination immediately. So this stage just has become slightly different. It's a bit of mainly it's beating your opponent, but now you're also concerned, okay, I'm going to beat this opponent, but how am I getting better as a chess player so that I keep winning games? And how do I keep learning from my own mistakes? And then you start to study these games at home very slowly, try to understand. You go to a club, that's what I did. I went to a club. It was open Mondays, Thursdays, Saturdays, evenings, and then Sunday the whole day. I'd go there and we'd play blitz games the whole day, 5 minutes, so 10 minutes per game. And some people will start to tell you that's not ideal because you're learning frivolous stuff, you're learning how to play fast, but you're not actually playing correctly. In fact, my dad told me, look, if that's what you like, stick to it and don't worry about it too much, which was very good advice. Because looking back, I can tell you, There's no way I can picture myself as a 6-year-old studying chess constantly and playing classical games very slowly. That's not what 6-year-olds are. It's just one of mistakes. Then the first thing I need to do is then practice that. So I may call a friend and say, let's play some blitz games in these positions. We play 5 or 6 blitz games. And you get a sense for when things start to go wrong, when you are able to cope with the challenges and things like that. But mostly this getting ready for a tournament is visualization. You imagine yourself there, you imagine yourself being in multiple situations with your opponents. In fact, quite often during this period, right before a tournament, when I go to sleep, I have dreams where suddenly one opponent pops up and you've blundered your piece and you're embarrassed. You look around, and then you wake up in a cold sweat, and then you realize, okay, it didn't really happen. You feel better. But this is important because your brain is slowly getting into a state of mind where you think, well, when I'm playing, how am I going to be coping? And your past experiences matter a lot. This is the stuff you take with you pretty easily. I mean, from the time I started, which was when I was 6, till now, there are games I'm very happy with, there are games I spoil, there are mistakes I feel that I have made enough times that I can stop making them and still make them one more time. There's a funny story that a trainer called Boretsky once mentioned. He gave a Grandmaster, an Armenian Grandmaster position to solve. He said, okay, I'd like you to spend 20 minutes here and find the best move. So this Grandmaster will put you and he usually sat there, concentrated because he was quite a famous coach, he wanted to impress him, so he sits there, thinks as deeply as possible, and tells Boretsky, well, this is the move I wanted to make. And Mark tells him, yes, that's the same bad move you made 20 years ago in your own game. This is a very typical phenomenon because left to ourselves, we tend to do the same thing over and over again. Sometimes a good thing, but also the bad ones will repeat. And if you want to break habits, I mean, I'm talking about just habits, but you'll understand what I say from life habits, that there's a reason they are habits. It's very difficult to break them. You will, if for instance you get up, you stumble out of bed, you flip the switch this way, and then you brush your teeth, you come, you do something. You tend to do these things on autopilot without thinking at all. But just blunders are very much like that. If you want to not make them a second time, you need to have some mental habit as to what to do. So for me, typically, during a game, if there's anything that triggers a warning, this is looking familiar, I have gone wrong in these positions before. Before a game, I will have to think, what am I going to do so that I don't just go on autopilot. So it might be a routine. I might get up, stretch my hands, walk to the refreshment area, maybe pick up a tea or something. I found that even it's very good to sit there for a few minutes, even let the clock run. Sit there for 5 minutes and come back. And then you start thinking, but now your brain is alert. You know that things can go wrong. And in fact, you see it immediately, what you would have done if you had not had these steps. And you can actually break old habits. I found this very helpful with time pressure. I'm sure some of you have been in time pressure. So what happens? We have to make 5 moves in a few seconds. We make first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. And then, but you're so wound up, you keep playing fast. But the time control is fast. Now is the moment to switch. So how do you get ready for that? Well, you have to have some pre-game routine, which is very good. When I go to the board, after the time control, I look at the thing, my pen has reached the bottom of the paper, I'm going to get up and go for a walk and come back. And then when you come back, you have come to terms with the position. I'll explain that in a second. You have come to terms with the position, and you now are dealing in the current position, the position you have in front of you, not the one you wish you had, not the one you had 15 moves ago, but the one you have now. And that's very calming. And after that, you sit and think, what I'm required to do here? And you start to go down that road. These kinds of habits, I have 1,000 of them, and I constantly am reminding myself during the game, oh, now I should not do this, now I should not relax, now I should not think about what I'm going to do this evening, now I'm not going to think about what I'm going to play tomorrow, because I've done this before, I've been there. So it's my learning that I'm applying. If you do that, you'll find that you do save points, you do solve it better, but not as much as we would like. I mean, in a tournament where I would be likely to make 10 mistakes, if I'm very focused and aware, I might make 6. But you take the points anyway you get it. And we can look at this more broadly. There are people who have been lost from the beginning of a game. Then they're defending tenaciously. They defend till by a miracle their opponent is careless, lets go of the advantage. And now suddenly, instead of being lost, they are better. But they can't switch their brains. They're still thinking, how do I save this lost position, even though they now have a better position. And so if an opponent offers a cross, they just grab it. That's still a bonus. It is better than losing the game. But on the other hand, at that moment, what you have to do mentally is play for the win. So you always have to play the current position. I don't know in which direction it's harder. You're winning the whole game. You play like a fool for 2 or 3 moves, and then you're lost. Now, can you fight? Can you fight for a draw? It's very demeaning knowing that you had a win. So the impulse is to play something very risky because you still want to win, but then chances are your game will finish faster with a loss. You have to bring. So a lot of this mental effort is simply you're fighting yourself all the time. And you're trying to, like a car coming to a destination or a plane, you're trying to just bring yourself to the end of the game. So all these things don't matter the moment you sign the score sheet. Then you let go, and it's a big release. Because the game is over. There's nothing that can change anything anymore, and you switch. So mental preparation is what you expect to happen. What are the challenges you face? What are the situations to which you respond well? What are the situations to which you respond badly? And how do you make slow incremental improvement? The second thing is in general learning. You have to keep on studying games. And as I mentioned, if a lot of the old material has a lot of memories tied with it, sometimes it's nice to study something new. Because you don't have the memories of whether it's success or failure. You're more neutral. And that's a very, very good kind of learning. So every time I learned a new opening, for instance, I would play well because I was excited. I had new problems to solve, the brain was working, and things were okay. Mental preparation before a game, pretty much the same thing I have described so far, except you're thinking you're narrowed down to one opponent. What do you expect to happen? What will you go through? All the usual routines. And you're trying to be the best shape of it. But despite it, I have been in world championships where I've had 4 trainers checking my material for me and making me rehearse it for 3 hours so that I knew everything. And then I go to the board. And I found that no matter what, if you don't go to the game with the spirit of whatever position is thrown at me, whether it's known or unknown, I'm going to solve it, you will not cope well in the long run. So, all your trainers are doing is all the help in the world, all the training, all the preparation is just to make it slightly easier for you. But if you expect a point to fall in your lap, that's never going to happen. So what this means is that your attitude to a game is worth much more than your preparation. Having the right attitude, having an attitude of no matter how bad things get, I'll sit there and I'll keep fighting. That's more important than just having a good idea. Now, I say that because in chess we spend all our time trying to have a good idea. That's what we're studying games for. We're studying games constantly, thinking, if my opponent does this and I can do this, I have a good chance. But you have to have the attitude as well that if something goes wrong, you're still going to be able to sit there and fight. Then we come to the question of, so there were two questions here. How do you win with grace? How do you deal with losses? I think there is a behavior that's expected of us. In public, we must get up and shake our opponent's hand. If you can bear to do so, congratulate them. If not, just keep quiet. Analyze the game because it's a kind of self-control. No matter how angry you are, you're telling yourself, I'm going to sit here and just discuss this for a few moves with my opponent because maybe I learned something. And then you go home and please knock yourself out. You want to hit your head on the wall? Go ahead. We're not supposed to behave in a certain way in private. That's the whole point of being private. But in public, you have to keep certain standards. And winning, even if you're happy, you feel for your opponent, right? You've been in your opponent's shoes, so why not not be triumphant? And it's quite hard because you're very, very euphoric. But as neutral a voice as possible, yes, it's a pity this happened, yes, of course, and yeah, you could have done that. Thank you very much. Your opponent goes, you go, and you go to your team, and then you're fine. Or you go home, and then you scream as much as you want. But this behavior is just good because it is consistent with everything you need. The same behavior which helps you keep self-control after the game will also help you keep control during the game. If you're a bad winner or a bad loser, eventually it will flow into your chess. And I think that's where the attitude comes. So whether it's physical training, which is to build stamina, the whole point is to build up a body and a mind that is able to perform at a high level without a lot of effort. I mean, that's the definition of stamina, right? If you run 5 meters, you can run 3 the next day without any problem. The reverse doesn't work. It's the same thing here. If you want to maintain a certain level for 5-6 hours of the game, that's what you do. There's a question on the relevance of chess, decision making in everyday life. I'm not quite sure whether going, but one thing I do know, the traits that I bring to my chess, which is whether it's impatience or patience or thing, are the same I deal with other things. So when I miss a flight, when I made a mistake while I'm traveling, or made a mistake at home or whatever, the emotional noise is very similar to what you'll face at the chessboard. The difference is over a lifetime of playing chess games, I'm used to controlling myself better at chess. First of all, even if I've totally lost control of my senses, my moves are pretty decent still. I will still beat most of it. But against someone who's strong enough, that's where you'll notice. So that's, and the lesson I learned then is, I often, non-chess situations, I think if there was a chess situation which looked like this, how would I deal with it? So if I'm angry with someone, that I'm dealing with, I think, does this get me anywhere? What is the result I'm trying to obtain? Just like in the chessboard. And then you can force yourself to stop being angry with that person, just get the job done. You don't have to like that person any more than you have to like your own. But it's a question of self-control. And these are skills I have actually managed to apply quite often. I would like to say it goes in both directions, but it probably goes more from chess to life. Because as I said, I'm better in chess than in most of the areas. Why everyone should learn the game is another question. So two things. One, there have been a lot of studies, and they found that students who go through a couple of hours of chess a week eventually become better at chess, but they also become better in academics. They focus better on their subjects. And they used to this idea of learning something and applying it. And all these skills do translate. It helps academic performance. It also gives you confidence. A lot of youngsters, when they play a good game of chess and get a good result, they say, I coped with that problem, now, let me see the subject at school. These things do help, and they're proven to help. It's mainly about delayed self-gratification. I can make the move now, but maybe I should double check everything a little bit more. Once I make this move, I can't take it back. So let me think more responsibly before I do something. It lowers your impulsiveness. And those are also skills that are very valuable. So this is, I think, what chess brings. Most chess players who have found a job outside of chess tend to be in fields like universities, law, medicine, finance, where this stream of information and you have to extract something of value and apply it. And it's quite clear for me that because they were good at chess, they've built up the state of mind to be able to transfer these skills elsewhere. With decision making as well. This thing of, it's very easy to be caught up in my either euphoria or anger, and I know that decisions made like that turn out to be bad. Just let me get a grip on myself. That's again very, very important. Okay, then there's a question about what kind of career path is like in chess. So this is a question I faced quite often when I was young. As I mentioned, I started at 6 in a country where at that point, 40 years ago, it wasn't, there weren't that many people making a living from chess. And in fact, there weren't a lot of people making money from sports. The typical sports story then was somebody would play something because they loved that sport. They would play it till they were 17 or 18, and then their parents would convince them, well, maybe you should get a real job. This was a very typical situation. Now things have changed, of course. First of all, sports has become quite a viable career option across the whole world. That it's easier to avoid all mistakes and learn from others and things like that. For me, that moment when I was pretty confident I could make a career out of chess was when I became a Grandmaster. So I'll explain. At the age of became national champion, men's champion. And that takes the pressure off for a while, because you think, well, you're on the right track at least. That's important because the 10th is when you have to choose your string. I don't know how it's in Guyana, but you have to choose your string. Then in the 12th, you have to do well enough to be able to choose the university. So actually where you want to study. And just before I started my university course, I became a Grandmaster. And in those days, a Grandmaster was pretty much a ticket to a reasonable life. I knew that, I'm not going to be earning yards or anything, but I knew that I wouldn't be thinking about how to get some money the next day. I knew that I could have a pretty comfortable living. And I felt a lot better for myself. Also, because I was India's first Grandmaster at that point, this meant that there was an extra value attached to it. Anyway, there's a kind of nice story to illustrate this attitude. So after I became a Grandmaster, a few months later, I was invited to another city in India to be honored for becoming a Grandmaster. So I took the train and I was going there, and there was an elderly gentleman in the same cabin with me. So he asked me, we started talking, if that sounds very strange to some of you. Remember, we didn't have mobile phones in those days, so we actually used to speak to other people. And so this gentleman asked me, so, young man, what is it you do? And until that point, quite more often than not, I would just tell them I'm going to be an engineer or something, because, once you say chess, then I learned that they ask a lot of questions and it's quite annoying. But anyway, I just become a Grandmaster and I was feeling kind of confident. I thought, okay, what the hell, let's try it. I think I'm going to become a chess player. So then he said, okay, but what do you do? It's not the answer I expected. So I said, no, actually I'm going to play chess for a living. He said, okay, but your dad has a company or something. So then I said, no, I'm going to play chess for a living. And then he said something very nice to me. He said, young man, don't take this advice badly, but in our country, sports is a very difficult career. If you are Anand, you could make a living from chess, but I don't think you'll be able to. So, it's probably one of the nicest things someone has said to me, but things used to be like that. But now there are just many options. Even then there were options. So the typical route was you try to make a living in playing chess. If you couldn't do that, you try to you transfer your skills by publishing books. You could work for a newspaper, a chess column, something like that. So there were a couple of alternate streams, fallback streams. And nowadays there are even more. So you have people, they are streaming, you can do commentary, and the range of classes you can give is expanded. It's no longer restricted to the 10 people in your city who want to learn chess. Now, literally the whole world. You can teach anyone, anywhere. So, in chess, like many other fields, the market has gone global. But there is one caution though. Not only in chess, in life, I think in any field, you don't get to make a living instantly. There will be a period of maybe a couple of years where you'll simply have to do it for the pleasure of doing it. After that, you'll be able to make a living. But in that first stage, you'll have to do it simply for the love of it. And definitely there are fields which are very attractive, or at least look attractive from the outside. But you shouldn't pick them if you're not terribly interested in that field. It can be a sport, it can be anything. And conversely, if you really enjoy doing something, what they call your passion, then that should be the thing to do. Because there's an initial stage of doing something just to expand to do for free. Nobody's going to reward you for it. And it's much more fun, it's much more enjoyable. In fact, you'll benefit more if you're doing something that you love doing. So that's the real caution. I don't know if someone here is considering chess as a career, but the key is always not to close your options too early. Even becoming a Grandmaster, I finished my university course, and only after that I stopped and became a full-time professional. You don't need to make that decision very early. You can keep going on. Look, we've all been in school, right? Even if we had nothing else to do, we would be studying all the time. So chess is not really competing with the school. It's competing with the rest of your freedom. It's something else. And I think the more subjects you learn, the more interactions you have, the broader the better the person you become. So it's not something that you